as we speak, I believe that Abdul Ezedi is still on the run somewhere in the United Kingdom. Let me start by asking you what you think a likely time frame might be for detaining this very serious offender, who we must remind our viewers at home, the police have said, do not approach if you see him. He's going to be very recognisable. He's got severe damage to one side of his face, apparently, although it hasn't been confirmed, caused by the very corrosive substance he was using himself. What sort of time frame do you think we should be looking at in terms of tracking him down?
Well, I make no apology for reiterating what the police have said, that if you do see this extremely dangerous man, the only course of action to take is to ring 999. Yeah. Whilst Good Samaritans helped out with the offences that were committed on Wednesday evening, now is not the time for anybody to try and do anything heroic. See him, pick up the phone, ring 999. Typically speaking, with fugitives who are on the run in circumstances sort of similar to this, their success or otherwise is dictated by what kind of support network they have. If you've got somebody who's going to feed and clothe you, transport you, supply you with cash, move you under the cover of darkness from one location to another, then you're more likely to stay successfully on the run than somebody who might be on their own, who's having to live by their wits, who's having to steal food, for example, because in that kind of situation, somebody is far more likely to be noticed by the public, who will therefore make that call and will lead to the police slapping the handcuffs on.
And surely one of the challenges in this case is this is an individual who is apparently living up in the northeast of England, must have connections all over the UK. So the police really don't know where he's going to be. And is that why they've notified all ports? Do you think he's likely to try and leave the country?
Oh, undoubtedly there will have been an all ports warning issued. But likewise, I would like to think that every member of security teams in hotels the length and breadth of the nation have been shown his picture and told what he's wanted in connection with. Because there's 280 miles between London and Newcastle.
A lot of CCTV, though. How come they haven't seen him on CCTV?
Well, they might well have done, but they're just not telling us at the moment. I'm sure that after the sighting in Tesco's on Wednesday night, where he's seen with the bottle of water in one hand, they will have panned out from that location to see if he's been picked up by other CCTV systems, whether they're privately owned or they're public systems, to see thereafter whether he's got into any public transport, whether there's been a vehicle, whether there's been someone lying in wait for him. And dependent upon the kind of assistance he's got, I think that will dictate how long he's on the run for.
And although we don't really know all the details yet, it does. The police have said that they think there was an element of premeditation to this attack. We don't know if the victim was known to him. The victim was returning to a hotel in that area of South London used by the Home Office to house female asylum seekers and their children. But the police will be looking at all of his connections across the UK to try and track him to his hole, won't they?
Absolutely, particularly in the northeast, where it's already been reported he had a number of other contacts that he might be seeking to rely upon. He may, of course, have gone completely off grid, understand the almost hopeless situation that he's in, and might be living on his wits. I suspect by looking at that CCTV image that wound is in urgent need of medical attention. And whilst I'm no medic myself, I would suspect it's also prime for infection, which would require further medical intervention. We'll have to wait and see. I'm hoping that with every message that comes into my phone, it's going to be the one that I want to see, and that is that this sex-offending criminal piece of dross has been captured. But we shall just have to keep our fingers crossed.
Peter, look, these sort of corrosive substance, acid attacks, as they're all called, in fact, it was an alkaline substance apparently used in this, they are pretty rare, but the consequences of them are just huge. And I remember back in 2018, actually, I was in Parliament where we updated the law in relation to corrosive substance, create a specific criminal offence in the 2019 to carrying them, to create a specific criminal offence of the acid attack itself, rather than relying on old legislation around harm to the person, GBH and ABH and things like that. But since then, the attacks have gone up by 45%. Do you have any idea why we're seeing this explosion, if you like, nearly increased by half in the number of these acid attacks taking place?
Well, of course, the legislation you speak of was brought in response to a spate of what were then called acid attacks. And the harsh reality is, almost everybody can delve into that cupboard under the sink and find something that is corrosive and would do somebody harm if it is misused. But we are living in an increasingly violent society. Ignore what James Cleverly, the Home Secretary, said only last week, that crime is down, because that's manifestly incorrect. And unfortunately, with violence on the increase, particularly with the use of knives, it's not surprising that other types of violent crime are also sadly on the up.